I pushed open the glass door, expecting the usual morning routine. My father sitting at the head of the table, coffee steaming, reports scattered. A glance, a nod, nothing more. Instead, the room was heavy. Electric, like the air itself was holding its breath. Abdul? My father said. My stomach nodded. We need to talk. I smiled, too eager, too hopeful. My brother Samir leaned back in his chair, calm, almost smug. I should have noticed then. You're not ready, my father said. Each word slow, deliberate, cutting. What? I choked. Not ready for what? He didn't instead answer. He just gestured at Samir. Samir will be taking over your clients. Starting today. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My own brother, my father, together. Smiling, shaking hands with clients I had spent years building relationships with. Handshakes I should have had. Calls I should have made. Deals I had nurtured from nothing. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. This isn't fair, I managed, my voice catching. Life isn't fair, Abdul, my father said, flat, final. I turned to Samir. How could you? He shrugged. It's Sep's business, man. Dad thinks Sep's better at this. Better? Better? I repeated, voice rising. Sep's worked my ass off. Every single client, every late night, every pitch, I did it. And you just take it. I didn't take anything, he said. Calm, too calm, smug. You lost the edge. Dad noticed, that Sep's all. I felt my chest tighten. Rage, confusion, betrayal, all at once. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to leave and never come back. But I stayed. I had to see it. He laughed light, careless. My brother, my enemy. You said you're overreacting, he said. It's Step's business. Don't Step take it personally. Don't Step take it personally, I repeated under my breath, teeth clenched. You just stole everything I worked for. My clients, my ideas, my role, and you call it business Steps. My father looked away, uncomfortable, or maybe proud. I couldn't tell. The meeting ended. I shook hands, faked smiles, watched as Simmer charmed the clients, cracked jokes, made promises that weren't his to make. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. But I walked out. Back in my apartment, I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands shook. My phone lay beside me, buzzing with unanswered emails. Every strategy I drafted, every pitch, every long night of research wasted. I kept replaying that scene. The smiles, the handshakes, my father's face, Samir's calm arrogance. I couldn't sleep. I went through every client call I'd made, every meeting, every detail they'd trusted me with. And I realized something worse than betrayal. It wasn't just that he had taken my place, it was that I had let him, that I had assumed loyalty meant something, that I had trusted blood over ambition. I felt hollow, rage and helplessness swirling inside me like a storm. I whispered to the dark room, I once stet forget this. I can stet forget this. Somewhere in me, a seed of something sharp, something patient, started to grow. Not yet revenge, not yet action, just awareness, just the cold, brutal understanding that this wasn't over. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, mind racing, and I made a silent promise. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, I would reclaim what was mine. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time blurred, I couldn't tell. I sat at the breakfast table, spoon hovering over cereal, staring at the same white wall I had stared at yesterday. My father and brother chatted about deals I no longer belonged to. I swallowed hard, forcing the food down. Abdul, you're quiet today, my mother said. I mumbled something non-committal. I didn't belong anywhere in that house anymore. Not at the table, not in the office, not even in my own head. Later, my phone buzzed. A message from Rania, my best friend. Rania, you okay? Haven't heard from you. Coffee. I stared at it. My fingers trembled before I typed back. I had him fine. I knew she didn't believe me. She never did. When I finally met her at the cafe, she didn't ask the polite surface questions. She leaned in, voice low. Talk to me. Seriously. What's going on? I shook my head. Nothing. I said it's fine. Her eyes narrowed. Abdul, this isn't fine. You said been gone. Silent. Hollow. Stop pretending you said are okay. I can see it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her everything. The meeting, the betrayal, Samir smiling like he had won the lottery with my life. But the words wouldn't come. I felt weak. Exposed. I trailed off. I can instead explain it. Not yet. Not yet? She pressed. Abdul, you said not sleeping. You said not eating. You check your emails like a junkie obsessively. Something happened. I can feel it. I laughed bitterly. You would think the person you grew up trusting could stab you in the back, and suddenly it makes sense, huh? Her hand touched mine. Abdul. I yanked it away. No, you don't hit to understand. I walked away before I could break down. Back in my apartment, silence swallowed me. The phone lay face down, notifications ignored. Emails unopened, yet I found myself scrolling anyway. Client accounts, projects, meetings I had scheduled, notes I had written, ignored, overridden. Samer's name haunted every file, every message. I imagined him laughing with clients, pretending to know what he didn't, pretending to be me. My blood boiled. But the rage was heavy, numb, confused. I replayed the meeting in my head. My father's face, Samer's smug grin, my own frozen hands. Sleep became a stranger. Nights stretched endlessly. I stared at the ceiling, staring at nothing. My mind wouldn't stop. I thought about confronting him, texting him, emailing him, telling him exactly how much he had ruined me, but every time I hesitated. Because it wasn't just anger, it was grief, real sharp, hollow grief. And yet, beneath it, there was something else. A flicker, a seed of understanding that maybe loyalty to people who abandon you is dangerous, that trusting someone blindly can destroy you, that the world didn't care about my hurt, or maybe it did, but not in a way that mattered. The worst part? I realized I was still loyal, still caring, to a family that had thrown me aside, to a brother who didn't deserve my trust. I whispered to the empty room, voice hoarse, why am I still loyal to them? Rania called later that night, her voice soft, patient. Abdul, I stem not leaving you, you need me, let me help. I wanted to tell her, no one can help me, not now, but I did instead. Instead I said, thanks, I just need time. And that was the truth. I needed time to stop feeling hollow, time to stop imagining Samer laughing with my clients while I rotted in silence, time to figure out how to breathe again in a world that had betrayed me. The city outside my window buzzed, lights flickered, cars honked, life went on. My life had shifted, twisted, pulled out from under me, but I stayed. I existed. Barely. Numb, aching, furious. And in the dark I promised myself quietly, I once stay hollow forever. I still find a way back. I just don't know how yet. I stared at my laptop, the screen glowing in the dark. My inbox was a battlefield. Every client message I ignored or had been ignored felt like a punch to the gut. I clicked, drafted, deleted, rewrote. You really think emailing them secretly will do anything? Rainia's voice floated over the phone. I don't want to confront him yet, I said, voice low, almost a whisper, not directly, not while he sepped smug, thinking he won. She sighed. Abdul, this is dangerous. What if they notice? They won stit. I know them. I know what they need before they do. My fingers flew over the keyboard, each word carefully measured, each insight tailored, something only I could provide. A note here about quarterly projections, a reminder there about a missed deadline, subtle, invisible, but potent. After sending the first batch, I leaned back, heart racing, rage simmering beneath the surface. Quiet rage, controlled, calculated. Then, the replies came. Gratitude, relief, questions about next steps, praise, silent, unspoken, but I felt it. I felt their loyalty shift, creeping back toward me like water finding cracks in stone. I smiled. Just a small, grim smile. You're smiling, Rania said, suspicion in her tone. I sat and just thinking, I said, closing the laptop. It's working. The thing is, revenge doesn't have to roar. It can be silent. Invisible, precise, slow, devastating, and I loved that thought. I started sketching a plan on paper. Diagrams, flowcharts, timelines, every client, every meeting, every detail. Samer had overlooked, mismanaged, or ignored. Why go this far? Rania asked, still cautious. Because he took everything from me, I said, my voice low cold, my clients, my work, my place. I can Sep just sit there, I can Sep beg for what Sep's mine back. I Sep take it, slowly, piece by piece, without him even realizing it until it Sep's too late. Weeks went by. I became a ghost in the system. In meetings I stayed quiet, invisible, but outside, I moved like a shadow. Sending insights, offering improvements, answering questions before they were asked. Every client, email a calculated step in my silent revenge. I watched the subtle shift, a client thanking me personally for noticing something. Samer missed, another asking if I could lead a small project, even though I wasn't officially in charge. It was intoxicating. I felt power creeping back into my hands. Quiet power, controlled power. But it wasn't enough yet. I needed more. I needed to dismantle him slowly, invisibly, like a chess game. Every move counted. Every hesitation could ruin everything. At night, I lay awake imagining scenarios, conversations I would have, emails I would send, meetings I would redirect. I envisioned his face when he finally realized the empire he thought he inherited was slipping through his fingers because of me. And still, I didn't act openly. I couldn't. Patience was my weapon. Silence was my ally. Precision, my friend. One night, I reread every client email I had sent. Notes on proposals, gentle nudges toward missed deadlines, reminders about past commitments, each one a thread in a web he couldn't see. I can step believe how calm you are, Rania said during our late-night call. Most people would be losing it. I've lost it, I said, almost smiling. I just don't such show it. She fell silent. She knew me. She knew rage simmered under that calm surface. But this was different. This was strategy, revenge with a purpose. Not just anger, not just hurt. Every night, I imagined him bragging, pretending to have earned my clients, thinking he was the hero, and every night, I allowed myself a small private satisfaction. I was already winning. He just didn't know it yet. I have to be careful, I told Rania once. One wrong move and I blow everything. All the leverage, gone. I can stet let him see me. I can stet let him suspect. Then don't stet let him, she said. You stir good at this, smarter than him. Use it. I smiled again, grim and determined. I had the edge, I always had. But I had to be patient, careful, invisible, calculated. Every message I sent, every tip I offered, every small correction only I could provide, it was a nail in the coffin of his arrogance, and he wouldn't see it until it was too late. I leaned back, hands behind my head, staring at the ceiling. Quiet rage, cold satisfaction, the seeds of revenge planted, watered carefully with patience and precision. I whispered to myself. You thought you could take everything. You thought I stepped be crushed. You were wrong. The storm had begun, and I was in control. I walked into the office, past the familiar faces, past my brother's smug grin. He glanced at me once briefly, then went back to his phone. I smiled, just a little, invisible. No one knew what I was doing. No one except me. Abdul? A client Sep's voice rang in the hall. I froze. Hey, I said. Casual. How Sep's it going? They smiled, relieved. I just wanted to ask about the quarterly projections. I know Samer is handling it, but, honestly, I wanted your insight. My stomach tightened, but I kept it calm. Of course, let Steps go over them. Alone in a small conference room, I pulled out my notes, my strategies, my ideas, the ones I had built from scratch. See, here sits where we can adjust the timeline, I said, pointing at the graphs. And here, if we tweak the budget allocation slightly, we still get a 12% improvement in ROI. The client Sup's eyes widened. This is exactly what I needed. I don't know how Semenir missed it. I laughed quietly. He Sep's learning. Don Sep's worry. Outside the room, my brother paced. I saw him from the corner of my eye. Suspicious. Frowning. I didn't flinch. I just smiled behind my calm exterior. Later at my apartment, the phone never stopped. Calls, emails, messages from clients, each one unaware I was behind the solutions they were praising. Abdul? I don't understand. How are you always ahead of him? Rania asked one night. I set not ahead, I said, quietly, almost to myself. I set him invisible. They don't set see me, but they feel me. That sets the point. She shook her head. This is dangerous. Samer is getting suspicious. Let him, I said. Let him think he seps in control. I seps impatient. I seps imprecise. I seps careful. Suspense became a daily rhythm. Each call, each meeting, a calculated risk. One misstep and my cover would be blown. A client called unexpectedly. Abdul, you have to help. Samer is about to approve a disastrous contract. Can you intervene? I smiled, cold satisfaction creeping in. Already on it, Dawn's set worry. I got it covered. I worked late into the night. Notes, spreadsheets, strategy sessions. Every improvement invisible to my brother but vital to my clients, each move a step closer to reclaiming what he had stolen. I started keeping track of his mistakes, minor errors, overlooked details, small miscommunications, things I had noticed long ago but he had ignored. Every one became ammunition, every misstep a thread in the web I was weaving. Abdul, Rania Sep's voice was calm but tense. You start changing. This isn't stud just revenge anymore. It's steps, mastery. I laughed softly. It's Sep's empowerment. He wanted to crush me. He handed me the tools to rebuild myself stronger, and I sup some using them. There was thrill in it. Danger. Suspense. I moved like a shadow, invisible to the office, indispensable to the clients. The double life was intoxicating. I could feel the power humming beneath my skin. Are you happy? Rania asked one night. No, I said, voice low. Not yet, but I set him alive, and he doesn't stet even know it. I became someone he would never recognize until it was too late. Every day, every secret meeting, every discreet email built a force he couldn't anticipate. He thought he was in control, but the truth was I had always been one step ahead. I imagined the look on his face when he realized what I had done. The clients he thought were loyal, the projects he thought he owned, they were mine, guided by me, powered by my work, unnoticed by him. And in that solitude I found a strange kind of joy. The betrayal that once crushed me was now a weapon. My pain had been transformed, my grief sharpened into precision. Late one night, I stared at the ceiling. This is mine, I whispered. Every bit he stole, I still take it back, quietly, carefully, perfectly. The city outside hummed, unaware. The office lights flickered in the distance. Life moved on, but my life had changed. I had changed. I wasn't just the brother who was betrayed anymore. I was the ghost in the machine, the invisible force, the one who would reclaim everything without anyone realizing it until it was too late. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt truly alive. I shouldn't have been in the hallway, shouldn't have heard this, but I did. Samer was on the phone, laughing, that smug, careless laugh that always made my blood boil. Yes, yes, he said, voice dripping with false confidence. I saved the company. Honestly, Dad couldn't have done it without me. Not like Abdul would have. I froze. The words hit me like ice water. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands trembled. My chest tightened. Then, I laughed. Quietly, under my breath. I laughed because it was absurd, because I realized something terrifying, something exhilarating. He actually thinks he steps in control. I stepped back into the shadows, listening, letting him brag about my clients, my work, my strategies, as if they were his. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered to myself. And then it hit me. I wouldn't just reclaim what was mine silently anymore. No, this was bigger. He had made it public. He had announced his arrogance. I would take his clients openly, every single one. I would dismantle the empire he thought he inherited, and he would watch it crumble. Every contract, every pitch, every client relationship reclaimed under my hands, guided by my skill. Abdul? You there? Rainia's voice broke through the moment. Yes, I said, voice low. I set him thinking. About him. About all of it. About how to fix what he stole and then some. Her silence told me she knew exactly what I meant. I pulled out my notebook later that night, scribbling, mapping, planning, each client he handled, each contract he mismanaged, every weakness he had exploited in the office, every detail he had overlooked. I wrote it all down. Spreadsheets, notes, timelines. I'm going to need everything precise, I muttered to myself. No mistakes, no slip-ups. Every move counts. The clarity was intoxicating. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the numbness, they didn't disappear, but they sharpened me. They gave me focus. "You're not just angry anymore," Rania said the next day, watching me work. "You're strategic, cold." "I've learned," I said quietly. "Anger is wasteful. Hurt is useless if it doesn't serve a purpose. Now it does. Now it steps a weapon." I imagined Samir at meetings, thinking he was brilliant, thinking he was in control, while I subtly redirected every client conversation, every deal, every decision behind the scenes. He'll notice soon," Rania warned. "Let him," I said, almost smiling. "Let him scramble. Let him panic. That seps when I strike openly. That seps when he sees the truth. The empire he stole, he never really had it." I mapped out every confrontation, every email, every small maneuver. I wrote down contingencies, escape routes, and timing. Every step deliberate. "Yuseb changed," Rania whispered later that night. "I can feel it. The old Abdul would sev. I don't set no." Broken down. "No," I said. "The old Abdul got sidelined. The old Abdul cried in silence. The old Abdul listened to his family betray him. That Abdul is gone." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My hands itched for action. For the first time, I felt truly in control. It wasn't about hurt pride anymore. It was about justice. Justice for every sleepless night, every overlooked email, every client trust he had misused. I whispered, almost to myself, "This is mine, and now it's Sep's war." That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't rest. I stared at my plans, my lists, my timelines. Every detail mattered. Every move would count. And I allowed myself one dark thought, one small, grim satisfaction. He thinks he won. He doesn't even know the storm I'm preparing. And when it hits, it will be precise, devastating, and perfect. No shouting, no chaos, just me reclaiming what was mine. Every piece, every client, every ounce of respect and power he stole. I smiled in the dark. Because finally, I knew the path forward. This wasn't revenge in shadow anymore. This was a mission, clear, cold, certain. And I was ready. I watched from the sidelines, invisible, as the house of cards Samir had built began to shake. It started with whispers, quiet murmurs from employees in the break room. "He doesn't even know what he's doing," one muttered. Another added, "I've been covering his mistakes for months." I leaned back in my chair, a small, grim smile tugging at my lips. Perfect. Just perfect. Later, a client meeting. Samir stumbled through projections, numbers off, timelines misaligned. My hand rested lightly on the table. Calm, casual. "You might want to double-check these reports," I said quietly, as if noticing for the first time. The client Sip's eyebrows shot up. "Really? That Sip's unexpected." Samir stiffened. Yes. Let's sit. We'll fix that." I didn't need to say more. My hint was enough. The seeds were planted. Back at my desk, I discovered the real cracks, hidden debts my brother hadn't disclosed, mismanaged accounts, client complaints buried in inboxes. The family business wasn't as solid as everyone thought. I whispered to myself, voice low and steady. "So this is where it all comes undone." Rania called that night. "You start getting dangerous. You know that." "Dangerous?" I chuckled softly.
No.
"Calculated, patient, strategic, that Sip's different." Weeks passed. I orchestrated subtle revelations. During calls, I nudged clients gently. "Have you considered revising this contract?" Only noticed it because I cross-referenced last quarter Sip's report. Eyes widened. Gratitude, surprise, loyalty shifted, quietly, invisibly. Meanwhile, Samir grew paranoid. Meetings he once breezed through became a mess of hesitation and stammers. His eyes darted. His hands trembled slightly when handing me documents. "You're watching me too closely," he snapped once during a boardroom discussion. "Just paying attention," I replied smoothly. Calm, voice steady. "Wouldn't that want anything slipping through unnoticed? Would we?" He scowled. retreating into silence. Even my father began questioning him. Samer, he said, one afternoon, frowning over a report. Why are these accounts off? And why didn't said I hear about this earlier? I miscalculated, Samer stammered, sweat forming on his brow. I mean it sups fine now. Fine, my father repeated, eyes narrowing. This is not fine. Abdul, can you explain this? I leaned forward, calm and composed. There are discrepancies in the accounts, Dad. I cross-checked everything this morning. Some overdue payments were missed. Dad's eyes flickered, uncertainty creeping in. Samer's face paled. Later I spoke with key employees quietly. You've done well keeping these issues contained, I said, voice low, almost conspiratorial. But it's important we don't let them escalate. We can fix this together. They nodded, trusting me, reliant on me. Meanwhile, Samer stumbled blindly through the office, unaware I was the invisible hand guiding everyone's steps. You stopped controlling. He accused me one night in the office. Everything you touch, you manipulate. I smiled, cold and deliberate. Or maybe I'm just correcting what was left broken. Every hint I gave, every nudge toward reality, every gentle exposure of his errors, I watched as his world trembled, small cracks widened. His arrogance, once impenetrable, started to crumble. I discovered more contracts signed without approval, expenses unaccounted for, clients silently frustrated. Every piece was ammunition, every revelation, a tool in my hands. One evening, as I watched Samer struggle with a client over a mismanaged account, I whispered, almost reverently, this is what betrayal costs. Every lie, every shortcut, every smug smile, you reap it now. Even my father's tone shifted during discussions. Abdul, I need your insight on this, he said, one afternoon, voice hesitant but firm. Trust edged toward me again. Samer noticed. His eyes flickered with anger, frustration, panic, but nothing he did could stop the momentum I had set in motion. Every mask fell, every secret unfolded. Rania texted me later that night. He doesn't know yet, does he? No, I typed back. Not yet, but he will. Every piece is moving exactly where I want it. I leaned back in my chair, eyes scanning reports, emails, and client feedback. A dark satisfaction bloomed in my chest. Karma was in motion. I was the unseen hand guiding it. And the best part? He had no idea. I whispered to myself in the quiet office, voice barely audible. Every lie, every mistake, every betrayal, it stops all coming back, slowly, precisely, perfectly, and still standing, unseen, untouchable. In control. The thrill was intoxicating. Suspense, tension, delight in the unraveling chaos. Watching him scramble was a pleasure I had never imagined. I allowed myself a small smile, grim and deliberate, every step calculated, every move deliberate. The empire he thought he controlled was slowly, invisibly, slipping from his grasp. And I was at the center, guiding it all. The storm was building, and I was ready. I stepped into the conference room, calm, collected. The clients were already there, waiting. Samer stood at the head of the table, chest puffed, confidence still clinging to him like armor. Abdul, he said, voice tight. I thought you said be busy with your projects. I smiled quietly. I am, but I thought I stepped join, to help. The clients exchanged glances. I felt their eyes linger on me, expectant, trusting, not him, me. I said reviewed your last quarter reports. I began, pulling out the spreadsheets I had meticulously prepared. There are discrepancies in projected budgets and missed deadlines, nothing major but enough to adjust strategy for optimal outcomes. A client nodded, leaning forward. This is exactly what we needed. I don't must understand how it wasn't caught before. Samer's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth but I continued, calm, precise. I also compiled feedback from our team, suggestions you hadn't speed, some overlooked items, contracts that needed revision. He froze, and then I saw it. The flicker of panic in his eyes. The client's eyes, though, they were all on me. Admiration, trust, relief. Every compliment, every nod, it landed in my hands. I felt a rush, not cruel, but deserved. You did all this? Samir whispered, disbelief cracking his voice. Yes, I said, voice low, firm. You took my place, and I took your clients. Simple as that. The words hung in the room, heavy, undeniable, silence, tension thick enough to taste. You, Samer stammered, unable to finish. I didn't take what was mine by force, I said. I just reminded them who was managing their needs all along. Every insight, every improvement, everything I built. You ignored it, you overlooked it, and they noticed. A client spoke, softly. Honestly, Abdul, the changes you suggested are spot on. The strategy is clearer. The execution is tighter. We feel safer with your guidance. I nodded, letting the words sink in. My dominance wasn't loud. No shouting, no confrontation, just evidence, just truth. You see, I said, turning to Samir fully, control isn't just about titles. It's just about trust, loyalty, execution, and that is earned. His face drained of color, his hands trembled slightly. I had anticipated this, every subtle mistake he had made, every overlooked detail had led to this moment. You think you're in charge, he muttered, voice breaking. No, I said quietly. I know I am. I watched as clients nodded, opened laptops, reviewed contracts, and quietly whispered appreciation, all to me. Every eye that once followed him now followed me. Every question he tried to answer, I anticipated. Every hesitation, I corrected. You've improved the process, Samir said finally, voice barely audible. I've always known the process, I replied. You just didn't pay attention. I felt it then, a surge of power, but not bitter, not cruel, not triumph over him. Triumph over the chaos he had caused, over the work I had built silently, over the loyalty he had ignored. It was mine, earned. Abdul, I need to understand, he said, desperation creeping in. How did this happen? You ignored what mattered, I said simply, and I acted, quietly, strategically. Everything you missed, I fixed. Every client you neglected, I nurtured. Every detail you overlooked, I caught. I saw him shrinking, collapsing under the weight of his own arrogance. I could almost hear the mask cracking, the illusion of control shattering piece by piece. A client looked at him, then back at me. Honestly, I trust Abdul, he guided us better than anyone. He swallowed hard. I didn't need to say more. The room had shifted, the balance of power had shifted. Silently, irreversibly. You took my place, he whispered, disbelief and panic tangled in his voice. And I took your clients, I replied evenly. And nothing more, I stem not vindictive. Just precise, just patient, and just unstoppable when ignored. Rainia's words echoed in my head. You're not just angry anymore, you're strategic, cold. Yes, cold, but measured, controlled, empowered. The betrayal that once crushed me had been transformed into a weapon, and now, standing here, I felt its full power. Samer opened his mouth again, but the clients didn't look at him. They looked at me, trusting me, respecting me. A subtle, undeniable shift. I leaned back slightly, letting the moment linger. The silence was mine. The evidence was mine. The loyalty, finally, unmistakably mine. You'll have to accept it, I said quietly, almost kindly. Control isn't given. It's earned, and I earned it. Step aside, watch, learn, or fall behind. His face paled, his arrogance replaced by helplessness. The empire he thought he controlled, crumbling quietly, systematically, and without a single shout. Power had shifted, not through force, not through chaos, but silently, surely, irreversibly. And I smiled, grim and satisfied. Finally, my territory was reclaimed. He found me in the conference room, alone, reviewing contracts. His knock was hesitant. I didn't look up. Can we talk? His voice was softer than I remembered, almost broken. I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled. About what? I asked casually, though my heart raced. About everything, he said. I don't know where to start. I finally looked at him. Samer, the brother who stole my place, the one who boasted and ignored, now looked small, vulnerable. A man humbled, desperate, broken. You don't understand what it took, I said quietly. Almost a whisper. You ignored it. You still don't. He stammered. I never realized, not really, running this ad it's harder than I thought. And I made mistakes. Big ones. Clients, accounts, you were right all along. I didn't respond. I let the silence fill the room, let it press against him, heavy, suffocating. He swallowed. I don't set know how to fix it. I thought I was ready. I thought I could handle it. You weren't sit, I said simply. You wanted the title, the position, the praise, but you didn't sit want the responsibility. You wanted the reward without the work. And now, I let my words hang, sharp as knives. Now you have nothing but regret. He flinched. His eyes darted to the contracts on my desk, the spreadsheets I had prepared, the client notes, all evidence of his failures and my reclamation. He started again, voice trembling. Can we work together? I mean, I know I failed, but maybe. I laughed softly, dryly. Work together? After everything? He looked down, shame written across his face. I just don't want to lose the family, the business. Not like this. You already lost it, I said, voice calm, deliberate. Clients? Loyalty? Authority? Respect? All gone, and not because I took them, because you threw them away. He lifted his gaze, pleading. Abdul, I need guidance. Help me, please. I don't know who else to turn to. I studied him. I could feel the years of betrayal, the bitterness, the arrogance that once defined him. They were gone, replaced by fear, humility, and despair. I subtle tell you something, I said, leaning forward. The truth, it sups not about what I do to you. You already punished yourself. That sups the thing about betrayal. Summer, you can stead escape it. You feel the weight of every decision you made. He swallowed hard, blinking rapidly. So, you unstet. Forgive me. I shook my head slowly. I set not here to forgive. And I set not here to punish. I set not here to let you sit in the consequences. That sep's the heaviest burden, realizing what you lost, without anyone telling you, without anyone rescuing you. He flinched, as if I struck him, and my pride. Gone, I said. Your pride? Shattered, because pride without competence is worthless. You have power, title, but nothing behind it, nothing earned, and that is the lesson. He nodded slowly, despair etched in every line of his face. I understand now. Too late. I should have listened. I should have. I cut him off. Yes. Too late. That sips the point. Sometimes the greatest punishment is instead confrontation. Not anger, not revenge in the open. Sometimes, the punishment is silence. Recognition. Awareness. Letting you stew in what you lost. He swallowed again, nodding, small broken movements. I see it now. I never thought it would come to this. You never did, I said softly. That's why I set Mir, to remind you, not with shouts or chaos, just truth, and evidence, and your own regret. He looked at me, eyes glistening, vulnerable, human, not the brother I once knew, the one who betrayed me, but a man humbled, finally seeing the consequences of his choices. I allowed myself a small, bitter smile, not cruel, not victorious in the traditional sense. Just satisfied. Years of betrayal, pain, and silence crystallized into clarity. He had lost everything that mattered because of his arrogance. And I had survived. I had reclaimed what was mine. I stood, gathering my papers, and looked at him one last time. Learn from this, or don't set, that sets on you. But know this: regret is a heavy companion, Semmer, and now, it seps yours to carry. He nodded silently, understanding the weight of my words. I walked out of the room, calm, collected, silent victory coursing through my veins. Sometimes the loudest justice is the quietest. And tonight, he would feel it. The auditorium buzzed with chatter, clients and employees filling the seats. I could hear the murmurs, some curious, some skeptical. But I didn't flinch. I had waited for this moment longer than I cared to admit. Abdul, Dad said quietly as he approached me backstage, his voice low. Are you ready? I nodded, heart steady though adrenaline pulsed through my veins. Ready, I whispered. The lights dimmed, and the spotlight hit the stage. I walked forward, each step measured, deliberate. My brother sat near the front, posture rigid, eyes fixed on me. The weight of his earlier mistakes hung visibly on his shoulders. "Good morning, everyone," I began, voice calm, confident. "Before we start, I want to acknowledge the efforts of our team and the challenges we faced this year." I clicked the remote, and the first slide appeared: charts, client feedback, testimonials, all evidence of my work, meticulously documented. "This," I said, gesturing to the projections, "is the culmination of strategies we implemented to ensure growth, stability, and long-term trust with our clients. These improvements weren't set just plans, they were executed with precision and dedication." A few clients leaned forward, nodding, murmuring quietly. I could feel the shift, the admiration, the acknowledgement. Their loyalty, once quietly wavering, now unmistakably belonged to me. Samer's face tightened. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He knew, he saw what I had built, what he had ignored, mishandled, and left to decay. "Abdul," Dad said, his tone rising slightly, "your leadership on these projects has been exceptional." The client SIP's responses speak for themselves. A ripple of applause followed. My chest swelled, not with arrogance, but with quiet triumph. Finally, recognition. Validation. I paused, letting the moment stretch, letting it settle in the room. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to call him out publicly. The work spoke, the results spoke, and the client's loyalty spoke louder than any accusation ever could. "I want to thank our clients for their trust," I continued, "for believing in our strategies, for engaging with us, and for allowing us to guide you effectively. Your feedback and collaboration have been invaluable." I glanced at Samir. His hands were clenched, knuckles white, eyes fixed downward. He didn't say a word, no protest, no deflection, just acknowledgement, silent and bitter. One client stood, smiling. "Abdul, the improvements Yusuf implemented, efficiency, transparency, responsiveness, they've changed how we view this company, truly impressive." Another added, "We've seen tangible results. We've seen someone listening, acting, leading, and that someone is you." I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile, not cruelty, just calm, earned validation. My father's gaze softened, pride flickering across his face. After the meeting, Dad pulled me aside, voice low. "I underestimated you. You done what I didn't see coming. I am proud, Abdul, more than I am ever admitted." I nodded. "Thank you, Dad." He hesitated, glancing at Samir. "And your brother?" I let out a soft exhale, steady, even. "He'll learn," I said. "Eventually, that step's not my concern right now." Samer approached me later, hesitantly. "Abdul, I see now. I was blind. I misjudged everything. I don't know what to say." I studied him. The arrogance was gone. Only humility, laced with shame. "You don't need to say anything," I replied. "Actions speak louder than words. You see the results. You understand. That's enough." He nodded, defeated. I understand." The clients gathered around me, shaking hands, praising strategies, acknowledging my efforts, their loyalty, my influence. It was tangible. I could feel the power, yes, but it wasn't about domination anymore. It was about rightful place, earned through precision, patience, and persistence. Walking out of the meeting room later, I felt a calmness I hadn't felt in months. Revenge, when I first conceived it, had burned with rage, a storm threatening to consume me. Now it was quiet, serene, triumphant. I caught my reflection in the glass wall, eyes clear, shoulders squared, no bitterness, just clarity. I had endured heartbreak, betrayal, and the gnawing ache of invisibility. I had navigated confusion, strategized silently, and emerged stronger. The family business wasn't just a title I held now, it was my domain in spirit, in trust, in competence. Every client, every employee, every detail I nurtured silently had cemented my place. Dad caught up with me one last time that day. "Abdul, you've proven more than I ever expected. Not just as my son, but as a leader. I acknowledge you fully now." I nodded, letting his words settle. No celebration, no dramatics, just a quiet smile. Recognition, finally earned through struggle and perseverance. Later, I walked past Samer. He didn't speak, didn't meet my eyes, and I didn't need him to. Silence was sufficient. The knowledge of his loss, paired with my gain, spoke volumes. In the quiet of the office, I paused. I inhaled deeply, felt the weight of the years lift slightly. The storm had passed, and what remained wasn't just revenge. It was clarity, self-worth, and peace. I had reclaimed more than a title. I had reclaimed myself. And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Months had passed since the boardroom victory, since the silent acknowledgement of my brother's failures. The memories still lingered, burning vivid, but the sting had dulled. Pain doesn't vanish. It shapes you. I sat in my office, sunlight spilling across the polished desk, and let myself breathe. The contracts, the client notes, the spreadsheets, they weren't just tools of revenge anymore. They were reminders of what I could achieve, quietly, relentlessly, without losing myself. Dad knocked gently on the open door. "Abdul, do you have a minute?" I looked up, nodding. "Of course, Dad." He stepped in, older now in ways I hadn't yet noticed before. "I wanted to say, I see you, truly. Not just the work, but the person you say become. I was blind before. You say I've earned this. Every bit of respect, every decision, every achievement." I felt a lump in my throat. "Thank you. That means more than you know." He paused. "And, about Samir. I know things are tense, but I hope you two find some balance, some understanding." I chuckled softly, shaking my head. Balance. Maybe someday. Right now, distance works best. He has his own path to learn. I've learned mine. Later that day, a client called, one I had mentored quietly months ago. "Abdul," they said warmly, "we just wanted to thank you. Your guidance, your insight, its steps changed how we operate. We trust you completely." "Thank you," I replied. "That trust it's earned, not given. I shall keep proving it subs justified." I hung up and leaned back, reflecting. Trust, loyalty, respect. Those weren't things I could take from anyone. I could reclaim influence, assert power, exact vengeance, but the deeper victories were the ones that shaped me, internally. I thought of Samir. The lessons he had learned, painful, humiliating, necessary, were his alone. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to remind him of failures past. Silence had done that. The universe had done that. I had done my part, and now my role was different. My phone buzzed. Another client, another acknowledgement, another small victory. But this time it felt lighter. I wasn't just reclaiming what was mine. I was building something enduring: trust, integrity, identity. Dad appeared again, this time just to sit quietly. No lectures, no reminders, no expectations. "Yuseb changed things," he said softly. "And not just here. Yuseb changed how I see leadership, how I see you." I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't instead allowed myself in months. It was instead easy, but I had to endure, and observe, and act, when the time was right. He nodded. "And Yuseb done it without losing yourself. That seb's rare, that seb's rare, that seb's rare, admirable." I looked out the window, at the skyline, at the city moving below. Everything I had fought for, the respect, the acknowledgement, the subtle victories, it all culminated here, not in anger, not in rage, but in self-realization, in control, in peace. Revenge had been a tool, a method to reclaim what was stolen, but evolution, that was the real reward. The power of knowing myself, trusting my judgment, asserting my worth without becoming someone I didn't recognize. I thought of my scars. They were still there, faint lines of pain, betrayal, and struggle. But alongside them were signs of growth, resilience, strategy, patience, and clarity. Each scar told a story, each lesson a step forward. I poured a cup of coffee, letting the warmth spread through my hands. Months ago I would have boiled over in frustration, anger, longing. Now, I felt centered, grounded, ready for the future, whatever it held. I glanced at the office door. Beyond it, life continued. My brother kept his distance. Perhaps smarter now, perhaps wiser. Dad finally treated me as an equal, acknowledging not just my role but my humanity. And I had finally learned that victory isn't measured in power alone. Victory, I realized, is measured in clarity, in reclaiming your identity, in peace. I smiled, soft, quiet, enduring. The family business thrived under my care. Yes, but so did I. And for the first time in years, I felt truly at home in myself.